Charlotte area, did you get some rain?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you get woken up around 5 in the morning with some thunder?
I didn't, but I know you did.
I did, Chris.
I was already awake at this point.
That's
so,
true.
Yeah, I know.
That's true.
Yeah.
I was up, but then I thought maybe I can get some more sleep. Oh no, there's thunder.
Now, and this will tell people in general the general area where you live. It's a very big swath, but who received a warning on their cell phone?
Ah, yes.
Greg did. I didn't.
No,
I did.
really?
Yeah, it was weird, but Greg did.
But you're in the same house?
We were sitting right beside each other.
Wait,
oh,
what?
that's not good.
We were sitting right beside each other.
They're like, oh, one person got
So
it. We're fine.
that's
Flash flood
interesting.
warning, and then, but I didn't.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Well,
I never heard of that
All right,
either.
well, that's part of the wireless emergency alert system, and clearly we need to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not everyone's getting these, but I actually want to start with this. Whenever there's a flash flood warning, you're not always going to be alerted on your phone. There's only specifics. When there's a tornado warning, regardless, you're going to get that alarming beep that comes through. There are 3 tiers to a flash flood warning. Number 1, it's called base. Number 2, a considerable flash flood warning. So if you ever receive a flash flood warning, that's the GIS coordinates saying within your area there is an epic amount of rain that is a threat to life and property. The other one is saying, hey, it's there, it's approaching that. At that point, it's actively happening. So yesterday, we had a considerable flash flood warning, mainly because we were seeing up to about 2 to 3 inches of rain in an hour to 2 hours. That quickly overwhelmed drains. We actually had a producer, not calling him out, had to work remotely because his parking lot and garage was so flooded he couldn't get his car out.
Oh no.
So there's a lot of areas that were extremely impacted. But tier number 3, we had about 12 to 15 of these in the western side of the Carolinas. I say 12 to 15 because I can't remember the exact number. But a catastrophic flash flood warning is also known as a flash flood emergency. I will never forget seeing Helene on day 3 of rain in the western Carolinas, seeing flash flood emergency, flash flood emergency. Whenever you see more than one, it's a historic event. The last time that the Charlotte area had a flash flood emergency was 2018. Does anyone remember a certain hurricane that might have impacted us in 2018? Quiz question.
Irma. No, wait.
Not Irma. Florence, yeah, very good. Ooh, yep, no, Carlene gets the 1 life point for the day. Yeah, no, so Florence, when it rolled over, I think it was technically a depression or barely a tropical storm at that point, but it was Union and Chesterfield County that were put under a flash flood emergency for the first time in years. You had pools that were overflowing, there was so much rain, but this was a catastrophic event. I hope to God that none of you ever have to deal with a flash flood emergency. If you already have, I'm sure you've seen some things. But this is the really interesting thing, and this is another message that I really want to hammer home here. Because yesterday we were talking about this is chance for slow-moving thunderstorms. Some of us could see 1 to 3 inches. Even me didn't expect to see up to 5 inches. Now, this is factoring in the extra inch that we saw this morning, but there are a lot of other smaller little rain meters across Mecklenburg County. We have a great system. It's called FINS, and I'm going to have Carlene bring it up in one moment. But these are the highest totals that I saw. So this really just ranges from Steel Creek up to around Independence and to around Midtown. And I saw over 5 inches at the USGS, just south of Tyvola Road. Kennedy Junior High School, that's over in Steel Creek. Luckily, the kids weren't going to school today. Over 4 inches. Winterfield Middle and Alexander Middle, and we also had Collinswood Middle, had anywhere from 3 3/4 inches to about 4 1/4 inches, which is substantial. And this same thing that fins, and let's bring that up, Carlene, because I just want to show you where we get a lot of our local data. So this is in coordination with Charlotte Mecklenburg Stormwater, and this right here is showing the area of blue are all areas that pretty much saw over 2 to 3 inches of rain, and you can see how big of a swath it is, all the different pluses. But the information to the left of your screen shows how many buildings were impacted. I have a meter blocking it. What's the number to the far left? How many buildings does it say there's impacted?
291?
Yeah. So 291 buildings at least had water that came up to the foundation. There were 21 roads or bridges that went over streams that were impacted, and 136 roads either had significant ponding where lanes were blocked or completely covered. This is just an example of when you have one thunderstorm that sits in one place of what can happen. So we're specifically going weather alert today because we've already primed the soils. There's a lot of trees that came down as well. Oftentimes what happens is Trees like actually a dry ground, you believe it or not, or like kind of a damp ground because their roots are safe. It's a safe place for a tree. When you get a lot of water, it actually loosens the grip of the tree. And when that loosened grip, especially if there's any root rot or anything like that, a lot of our, like, say, really large oak trees that are all over the place only go down 18 to 24 inches. So oftentimes whenever you have a big wind gust, you see the whole thing fall over. And what can happen is when you have wind gusts up to about 30 to 40 miles per hour, it can cause them to go down. What's interesting is we had numerous trees down that took out power for up to 10,000 people in Mecklenburg County and surrounding areas earlier this morning and what happened there in the evening, but wind gusts were only maxed up to about 20 to 25. So that also shows an example if we get a tremendous amount of rain of what can happen. So I just want to mention that in the near term, winds are going to be maybe up to a fresh breeze. This is part of the Beaufort wind scale by Sir Francis Beaufort. Yep.
Beaufort or
Beaufort.
South Carolina, Beaufort's North.
Yeah, Beaufort. This is Sir
north.
Francis. He was a sea captain. Sir Francis Beaufort.
Sea captain.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if he went Beau or Bew. I'm just going to go with the Beau.
Beau.
We'll go North Carolina's version. But you're expecting a fresh breeze. So what Sir Francis did is back in the 1800s, he took each wind range and pretty much said what the range of that winds does to the sea and what it does surrounding things. So most you might have small trees swaying in the breeze, just letting you know where winds are going to be. But regardless of the rain, you could be able to see a decent amount of rainfall and even some down trees and some power outages through the weekend. So flood threat for today, I think it's afternoon, evening. These are very isolated. This type of forecast is maddening for me because I love it whenever you have the opportunity saying, hey, storm's going to be in, storm's going to be out, you're good after this. I physically can't say that, and I'll show you a reason here in a sec. So there's a chance for flash flooding. If you lived in Mecklenburg County, you had different stories per 5 miles. I live in the northwest Charlotte, and I was in the flash flood warning, but we had maybe inch and a half, not too bad. But
Not too bad.
Meanwhile, Ben was talking about he lives just south of Uptown, epic rain that came associated with it. And then meanwhile, Lisa, for instance, who lives south of that, close to the 485 corridor, well, there was about a 1/4 inch of rain.
Oh.
So it's really interesting. And sometimes you can have a storm the size of Gaston County, but it's really only about a 10-mile swath that has that magenta and those pinks that can dump up to 2+ inches of rain. So any other questions before I get to the future cast and anything else?
No, that was good.
That was good? Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to raise your weather IQ to start.
Please.
Here's an example of the rain that caused that flash flood warning. Notice what happened here. You had one storm that kind of popped up, and there's an outflow boundary that can like lead to one storm into another. This was kind of the perfect setup that you had multiple storms around that everything came together, allowing for one storm, and it wasn't until it finally burnt itself out that this nebulous kind of moved over. We don't have a big upper level wind that's guiding things. The best scenario, actually, sometimes, is when you have a cluster of storms that is quickly in and out. Now, it can cause worse wind damage, but at least you don't have the rain that lingers as long. This type of setup right here happens in the summertime. All in all, when you don't really have a big push from the atmosphere, is where you have the best chance for flash flooding, at least in a localized version like what we just saw. This is my best example I've ever saved for outflow boundary. See these little ribbon? Oh yeah, what's happening? We don't need to.
Come back. Come back.
Somebody just logged on my computer. Okay, there it is. This outflow boundary. Notice how you see these little ribbons of green that everything meets in the middle and storms form? That's essentially what happened yesterday, and then that's the prime time if all of them come together that you can have a big storm pop up and it just dumps a lot of rain. Okay, let's move on to our future cast. Just lost it. My show gets so out of order when we're streaming just because I'm going all
That's
over
okay.
the place.
We appreciate the information.
Well, I can't turn off the weather IQing, even as all right, Chris, I don't need to know about that. You've already mentioned that. I apologize. I can't stop it. Okay, so today, do we actually have a quick break of any of our local cameras that we can show?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's pop that up
Uptown,
before
right?
we get to this.
Got router 2.
All right.
Yep, Uptown.
Okay, it's brighter. I think overall today is going to be a cloudy to a mostly cloudy day, but the more sunshine we see, the more unstable the atmosphere is going to get and the better chance for storms. Also, the more sunshine we see, see, the warmer it's going to be. Right now I have 83. I honestly think that might be too low. Yesterday we actually hit 90. I was calling for 88. We hit 90. So it really just shows that if we get more sunshine, the heat that we're going to have, the warmer it is, because we are super humid. Actually, it's, I think, a skosh more humid than what we had yesterday. That's going to be prime storm fuel. So back to the futurecast. Here's what it looks like. You can see an isolated storm starting to develop between 2 and 4. But specifically, the foothills and the mountains, you have a chance for the same setup that you have rain and storms develop in this region where you're seeing it right now, and then eventually you're going to see it exhaust itself. It starts to move on, but you're still looking at a couple hours of some pretty hefty rain rates. So I want to watch this area, because as I show you the futurecast through the weekend, you're going to notice that rain sets up there each and every day. This is called orographic lifting. Oftentimes it rides up the mountains, it condenses the moisture and can lead to more rain. That was also another aiding of the enhance the rain rates for Helene, but that's a different story. But notice by the end of the afternoon, we're seeing a lot more numerous activity. At this point, we're kind of seeing those thunderstorms dance. Not a guarantee that you're going to see them. They're just going to be out and about. But what is unique, I think, later on this evening is the areas that didn't really see rain might have 1 or 2 more thunderstorms that bubble up. So if you go into, say, the Checkers game, might be a storm nearby in the area. This could also, are you going?
I'm not going tonight. Greg will be there.
Okay,
If you see
Greg
a
will be-
tall man in a West Virginia hat, wave. That's
He's
Greg.
gonna wear. He's not gonna wear
Yeah.
a Checkers hat, but a West Virginia hat.
Yes.
West
All right.
Virginia hat with a great smile. Sometimes a Ravens hat during NFL
Yes.
season.
Welcoming all.
Yeah, no,
Hi, Greg.
Greg's
Hi,
one of the
Greg.
greatest. Love you, Greg. This might be also a case and scenario. Say if you're in Rock Hill, you might see what everyone calls heat lightning, which isn't a real term. It just means that you are too far away from a thunderstorm to hear the thunder associated. But then we roll into your Saturday. I am personally, as I mentioned, going golfing. So I'm pretty
right.
excited
Father's
about
Day
that.
weekend.
Father's Day?
Yeah, I'm worried about that. Oh, I thought this is the golfing. There's the Checkers forecast. Better chance for thunderstorms.
Ooh.
Here's the golfing forecast. If this 20% comes to fruition, I'll be so upset, because this is like right around my tea time. I think it would be light rain. But this morning was supposed to rain. Everything verified. I think it was just a little bit heavier. But there is a slight chance that we have a little bit of shower activity for your Saturday, but it's barely anything. So let's get to that. I think you might have a little disturbance in the morning. You saw it there and then it disappeared. So slightest chance. Also, those greens are going to be very slow if you're going golfing. That's really tough, because you're going to be short putting, and then all of a sudden, once they start drying out throughout the day, then all of a sudden you're going to be hitting it too hard, and that's the one hole that has a big downhill. Jane, I think you're an avid golfer, so I think you know about this.
In theory, I am. I haven't swung a club in a while. I keep on trying to get my husband to go to hit the driving range with me at least.
Okay, well, after the stream, I'll go with you. There's one right down the road.
All right, I'm going to leave the stream.
Yeah, we're going right
about 10
now.
minutes.
Okay, so once you get to Saturday, I truly think most of us are going to stay dry on Saturday, except for that corridor I showed you right around Morganton. I think it's really interesting as far as the little cells that's set up here. You see them isolated a little bit earlier on, but most of the activity, I think, is around the I-40 corridor. So if you're talking about law of averages, somebody's going to get a storm outside of the I-40 corridor. That's just going to happen. But most of us are going to be okay. It's not until the evening. I think you see more of it closer to Charlotte, so kind of keep that in mind. And then you might have some lingerers through the overnight. As of right now, Father's Day is dry for the morning.
Okay.
But then after 2 is really where I'm seeing most of this activity start to pop up. By the late afternoon, this is a problem for grillers out there. Nothing's worse than having a hot charcoal grill and it pours, and then all of a sudden it cools things down. Unless that's your odd cooking method, then teach me whatever you're doing. Then I'll
Teach us all, yeah.
Yeah, I'll cook in the rain more
You're
often.
onto something.
But at this point, 6 o'clock, you're looking at almost a widespread scenario. I think there might be a chance there could be a severe thunderstorm on that day, especially to the northeast, and then that jogs into the evening. So if you are still making Father's Day plans, law of averages is still going to be an outlier. If you do it before 2, this is an exception outside the mountains. The mountains, I think you see rain as early as 11 to noon. But for the greater Charlotte area, if you do it before 2, I think you should be able to avoid most of this. Let's wrap it up with a bow. Our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast, I'm not mentioning much about this because we'll talk about it on Monday. The 90s, 89, 90 on Wednesday. 92 on Thursday, and then we're going to roll those 90s heading into the weekend. And it's not really too out as far as starts. I think the warmest one that I saw in the extended might be about 93. That's just preparing us for late June and July, because our average high in July and most of August is 90 to 91. So it's just the beginning. We're going to see a lot more of those 90s. But truly, it's days like this. I think you have actually more of a humid environment. 83 could feel more like 88. Yesterday's 90 felt like still 94. And that 88 could still feel like 92 for Father's Day.
Wow. Might be a good day for Carol winds, at least right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Pretty
too bad.
cloudy out there right now.
So I shouldn't say this, but this
Oh,
is
but I
my
will.
amusement park hack.
Okay.
Oh.
One of the best things you can do, and that's not as a fit today, is if you have a forecast that it's really wet in the morning and then you know it's going to clear up for the afternoon, I'll let you all know this. There's a good chance that you can go earlier on. The park is going to be not busy, and then you
Right.
can get the really front. Because one time I've done this, and Kim and I were able to ride the front of the roller coaster 4 times in a row because people didn't start arriving until the afternoon once it started getting nice.
So, okay, so say that again. If you have a
If
wet
it's
forecast
wet,
in
it's
the
a wet morning,
Uh-huh.
and then you know it's going to clear by late morning into the afternoon. Go right when the rain is actually actively about to end, and then you're able to get the front of the rides and
front
everything.
seats.
Get front seats.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And you can
Look
bring a
at
small
that.
towel too if you don't want to have a wet derriere.
Yes, those are
So
always
that's
very
my
good.
weatherman amusement park hack.
See? And that's why you got to tune into the live
You didn't-
Impact news stream.
What time is it right now? You didn't realize that
It's
at 16
9:16.
minutes in there was going to be the gem that Chris was going to say.
Life advice.
Nothing to do with this forecast, but the gem outside of that.
That's why we keep it on WCNC Plus.
That's why we keep it on.
Keep us on.
every
keep it
day.
rolling.
Every day.
You're downloading it.
All
You're
the
telling your
time.
friends. And,
did.
Everybody.
we're bringing
I'm
Chris
texting
Mulcahy.
people about it right now.
Good job.
All right. Thank you for all of that, Chris. Are we going to see you at 10?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Right?
Why not?
Yeah, no, I planned on. I'll
We're
be
going to
back.
hang. Okay. All right. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.